Oh,
Well,
Dad's here.
yeah. Welcome everybody to another great session in the HMGS CyberWars Roundtable, sponsored by No Dice, No Glory. This is Mitch. I am your moderator. Please mute your mics, and if you have any questions, throw them in the chat box. But as we start with the Q&A session, if you want to talk, I'll unmute everybody. So today's another treat for me, or this session's another treat. I'm interviewing a guy that I personally love. We've gone to many hockey games together before he fled back north and got me into playing ASL again. Okay, ASL starter kit. Let me be honest, but he recently ran a Vassal war game, and a lot of folks have been asking me, because I war game at work, what are we going to do with COVID in distributed gaming? And I said, you know, some communities didn't even notice there was a pandemic because they're already doing it. So I really wanted Dave to come here and talk about ASL and talk about how Vassal and playing online really is keeping that game going more so than anything else. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to my friend from up north, Dave Garvin. Welcome, Dave.
Thanks, Mitch. Great to be talking with you again. And yeah, great to see that hockey's going to be back up again soon in a different form, but it'll be back. It'll be back.
Go Caps.
Yeah, go Leafs. So you mentioned already about the tournament. I actually ran two tournaments. One of them was I was going to run in person. COVID hit, and we had to amend it, and it was done using Vassal, which originally I believe stands for Virtual Advanced Squad Leader. It's an online freeware thing that you can use. A lot of gamers know it. They can use it to play board games with somebody distant. They got to play live using I think using ones and zeros, however it works, and also you can do files and you can send them back and forth through email, which is great, especially if you're playing with people around the world. So two tournaments I was going to be participating in were in danger of being canceled because of the pandemic. What we ended up doing was reverting to using Vassal, and I think in both cases the participation went up. The first one was the Canadian ASL Open. It was the 24th or something like that, or 19th. I can't remember off the top of my head. But in any event, it was run virtually. What happened is we had an open and closing session using Zoom. And we were able to announce the winners and maybe introduce people and talk about the game and just to get a feel for how things would go. The same thing with Human Wave. Human Wave is a tournament run by the DC conscripts out of the DC area of near Washington. A lot of them are in Virginia or Maryland and so forth. We were going to run this tournament, would have been the third one, and it was going to be in Tyson's Corner. But of course the pandemic, so instead we went with the online, and it turned out it was a great success. And it's interesting, both these tournaments were run slightly different. The Canadian ASL was run exactly as the tournament was going to be run, with timings of about 7 or 8 hours to finish a game. But with the Human Wave, we went with the 24-hour method, in which people had basically 24 hours to finish the game. So that accommodated people from around the world. I think we had people from New Zealand, around the world, from New Zealand to Sweden, I think, for both of them. So, yeah, and it really has helped. And if there's a way to go online and you can check the server status and stuff, and you can see that certain games, especially Advanced Squad Leader, oftentimes will have 15 to 20 games going at any given time, 24 hours a day. Of course, in the most of the players in the United States and Canada, but it truly is a global game. And by playing virtually online with Vassal, we were able to get people from around the world, and it really has spiked the game. I guess you could say spiked the participation in the game, if nothing else. So that said, a little bit of a history lesson. I mean, it's a board game, right? It's a board war game. Started in the late 70s with this beauty called Squad Leader. And it, for those that don't know the game, it's a tactical level game. You push around your squads of 10 to 12 guys, and you get some leaders and machine guns and maybe some tanks, whatever. And you roll a bunch of dice and you try to kill each other. Great game, and it was revolutionary when it came out for a lot of reasons. It was followed up very quickly by Cross of Iron, I think about 1979. And this added a further dimension in that it focused on the Eastern Front. It added, I think it had all the vehicles that both sides used throughout the war from 1941 to 45. It was incredible. Here's the thing. When Squad Leader came out, it had what's called programmed instructions. So you'd read a few pages of rules, and then would tell you to play, say, scenario 1, a couple more pages, scenario 2, all the way up to scenario 12. And the whole idea was that you would grasp the rules gradually until you got to the end. By this time, you were, I guess, you knew the whole set. Cross of Iron carried this on, and that's what part of the problem in its success was. It was a very successful game. Part of the problem was that some of the new rules introduced in Cross of Iron replaced those that were in Squad Leader. And you flash forward a few years, you get Crescendo of Doom, and it added the Allied miners, the British, and you're talking about the British from the early part of the war only. So it doesn't have the late war stuff like where they have the Shermans, Churchills, and stuff like that. But again, it started adding new rules that replaced some of the older rules. Finally, 1983, this beast came around. It's called GI Anvil of Victory. And it was made at the same time that they were developing what they were going to consolidate into a game. So basically taking all those changes, get rid of the old rules, add the new rules, and harmonize everything. In fact, GI Anvil of Victory, the index doesn't even refer back to the first 3 games. And it, some people will call it ASL Light. So that was in 1983 when that came out. 1985, this came out. Actually, no, correction, not that. This, Beyond Valor. Beyond Valor is the first module for Advanced Squad Leader. And it came out, but the rules weren't out yet. The rules were not included in the game itself, which is, you know, I don't know, but that's the way they did it. Until finally, late 1985, early 86, we got the rule book. The thing about the rule book came in its little sleeve. So you can see here, so the ring binder, you can individual pages can take out. And the whole idea was much like a military manual. You could, as errata was found, which of course is inevitable, you could actually take the page out and put a new page or put the replacement page in. That even had a couple of coupons in it. And that's version 1 of the rule book. But to talk about the strength of the rules, this came out, you know, early 1986 effectively. It's 2020, and you can go to a tournament with this rule book and be pretty good. I mean, there are some errata, of course, in there, and some of the rules were, I'll say, not changed, but clarified. For example, some of the rules on human wave, wall advantage, etc. Those that play the game know what I'm talking about, but for those that don't, just think of any, you know, complex rule. A lot of games that on the Second World War, especially Eastern Front, have human wave rules, and they were kind of loosey-goosey. They were written originally, but in version 2 of the rules, when they came out, they clarified it and they got it down. Criticism of this is that, you know, I bought 4 games and it cost me, let's say, $15 each. So you paid $60 or more, probably a lot more, in $1980. And this thing comes out and it was probably a lot more than that. And of course, in Beyond Valor, what do you get? You get Russians and Germans and a few Finns. And you got a number of scenarios, 10 scenarios, 4 boards. Oh, by the way, you have to use some of the boards that were available in the original game. So the expectation, mid-80s, early 90s, was you played Squad Leader up to GI Anvil of Victory. Then you graduated over to ASL, taking all the stuff you had from before, throwing them out, except the boards. Not throwing them out, of course, but they may as well have, because that was a huge, and I think a valid criticism, was that all the stuff you had from before was no longer applicable. Also, the rules no longer have what's called programmed instruction. So you had, the rules were consolidated, and if truth be told, they're very well written, they're very exact in their language, they're very concise. That said, for a new player coming in, they're daunting because you have 4 chapters. The first chapter is about infantry in the basic game. The next one, entire chapter on terrain, one on the use of guns, and finally on tanks. And then as the system expanded, you added more and more chapters. The beauty, though, of the game is the index and the cross-referencing throughout. But you have to look at the game itself when it came out in the 80s, where the expectation was that the gamer already knew how to play this game, sort of. To get that, and there's a few changes. If you play GI Envelope Victory, you could probably just walk in and play Advanced Squad Leader, which is probably true. Problem is, it's not 1980s anymore. Thankfully, for some of the music and fashion trends, we've evolved since then. But that said, the only way to play really was face to face. You could play by email, but given the complexity of the turn system and how the interaction of units, I mean, it could probably take a year to go over like 2 turns maybe with the U.S. Post delivering your turns back and forth. Flash into the 90s and you started getting some play by email. So at least your transmission of your stuff back and forth was faster. So it was instant. I pressed send and my opponent got his turn. So it compressed the timeline, quite a bit. That said, you're writing out quite a bit of stuff. And I don't know when it was developed. I believe it was the late 90s when Vassal was developed. I believe it uses a JavaScript or something, and the idea is that, say, you and I, Mitch, could be online together, and we almost have a shared screen, with the exception of you don't see my concealed units and I don't see yours. Like, we only see what we're supposed to see. And that allowed for not just email play, but also live play. Use Zoom, Skype, Discord, telephone, whatever, and you could talk with somebody virtually, and you can play with them virtually using your computer screen as the board. And the thing is, of course, for those that aren't familiar with Vassal, is that it is a, quote, dumb system in that it doesn't know the rules. You move your stuff around. Yes, you can check for line of sight. Yes, you can put your guys into the, bypass movement or whatever. But the idea is that you need, no matter what, even though Vassal is a free program, you still need the rules to play it. You still need the scenario cards to play it. You still need all that stuff. But that said, with Vassal, I mean, I know for myself, I used to play the old Squad Leader way back, and I played it using Vassal as well. And when I discovered Vassal around 2004, I'm going to say, it really exploded my playing ability, because I was able to play people that had not played before, see new playing styles, etc., and then get on to playing them. Flash forward a few, another 10 years after that, when I discovered a way to get into Advanced Squad Leader. As I mentioned, the rule book is comprehensive, it's good, but it's not for the beginners because it's less rule book and more reference material. So you just play the game, and if something strange happens, like, I don't know, I have my vehicles in bypass, but the building collapsed, and like, oh geez, how does rubble fall again? Then you go to rubble and you roll the dice and away you go. Or you can use my method, just roll the dice, roll a 12, and that just means no effect. So in 2004, the people at now at Multiman Publications, they basically are publishing a Squad Leader since around sometime in the 90s when Avalon Hill folded. They took the reins over, and on behalf of Hasbro, they produced these games. But in 2004, they came up with this gem here, the Advanced Squad Leader Starter Kit #1. There are now 4 starter kits and a number of expansion packs. There's what they call a historical module, but I'll talk about those in a bit. With the Advanced Squad Leader Starter Kit, it takes all those pages and pages and pages, and you get this small little booklet, and on the back, it doesn't have a number. Of course it doesn't. 12 pages, and that's it. That's not even the size of the index in the original game. And as I told Mitch before, and I'll say it again, is that although the starter kit #1 only covers infantry and their support weapons, it has about, what I like to say, 80% of the rules of the full game that you use about 80% of the time. So, and that's it. I mean, there is so much depth to the rules that you can start talking about these strange events that happen through the random events generators and stuff. But with the starter kit itself, it's an easy access into the game. But and here's the beauty, if I might, with starter kit #2, which adds guns, 3, which adds vehicles, 4 is the Pacific Theater. When if you play all four of those, you can graduate into full rules ASL with very little difficulty. That said, um, you don't have to graduate to the full rules. There's plenty of people. There's actually a pretty large community of ASL starter kit players. Go back to the tournament in Human Wave. We had a starter kit tournament in there as well with a number of scenarios. And I tell you, that was as popular as the full rules game. We had a number of people in there playing, and they're playing the starter kit game. It's a little more simpler. There's no, for example, at least for the first three, there's no concealment. There's no bypass movement. There's certain this, they don't have that, they don't have whatever. But it's just as fun. You're throwing the dice and you're having a lot of fun with people. And I introduced a friend of mine, a local friend of mine, to the game, and I brought him in with this. And I was going to go through 6 of the scenarios, and then starter kit 2, starter kit 3, and so forth. After 3 or 4 games, he says, "You know what? I want the full thing." I said, "Okay." So we played a full game, and it wasn't that bad. So find yourself a starter kit, find yourself an opponent, and here's the beauty with Vassal. Even especially in these times of COVID, where people cannot get together, there's a lot of travel restrictions, and people just don't want to be that close to somebody, even in the best of times. So the idea is, if you live in a remote area, which is I do right now, you can get online, and I can play somebody from around the world or down the street, and that's the beauty of it. Finally, I want to talk about. What I think is probably the best part of Advanced Squad Leader, and it is the campaign games or the historical modules. This is Red Barricades. My camera's showing it backwards. Maybe you see it forwards, whatever. It says Red Barricades, so I'm not reading the opposite direction. Red Barricades came out in the 1990 or so, 89, 90. And what it did is, instead of these generic maps that are designed to fit together like a lot of war games do, these are actual maps that were hand painted by Mr. Charles Kibler, and it's of downtown Stalingrad, a certain area, and it's based on contemporary aerial photographs. And basically, what you do is you can play a campaign, so a series of linked days. For example, the front line gets so far, the game ends randomly. It's the next day. Do you carry on the offensive? If so, it's going to have a negative effect on your overall morale, et cetera, et cetera. And what it does, I find, is that it avoids playing a game and it's the very last turn. You got to take that bridge, but it's only a game, and there is no tomorrow. It's the last day of the war, so you just make a rush, a stupid rush that you normally wouldn't do. In a campaign game, except for the very last day of the very last campaign, et cetera, you're not doing that, because there is a tomorrow, and I can't throw these guys away because I need them for tomorrow, and have to be a little more cautious with them. So it has that little sort of also what I call the operational component of that. So you're not just thinking of today's tactics, but you're thinking of, okay, which forces do I need to purchase? What forces do I need to bring to the fight in order to beat him? And of course, you don't know what the other guy's bringing to the fight. Maybe you're bringing lots of infantry, and maybe he's bringing lots of tanks. And I don't have any tank weapons. I better have a balanced force. And that's where it comes down to, I think, with the beauty of that. And there are a number of campaign games that are out there. And the last thing I want to talk about is, I mentioned that in 1977, we saw Squad Leader. Well, in 2020, this was released. Croix de Guerre. It is the updated version of the French for the Squad Leader system. They were originally released in the original Croix de Guerre back in 1985, whenever that was. The Kaiser stole the 20, so I don't know when it was. Anyway, so that just came out, and it's updated. It has the updated scenarios. It has a campaign game in there. I forgot what it is. I think it's crossing the Dinant River with Rommel. And it has a number of scenarios, etc. And the complexity of the French is, you have, the French of the French Republic, then you have the Vichy French, you have the Free French, and you have, of course, I'm not sure what they call them, but the partisans in France. Anyway, so that's sort of a breakdown of that. And of course, you want to play face to face, but instead of playing face to face, age of COVID, we have a pandemic. People can't reach out, so we have to improvise, overcome, and adapt, I guess, as Clint Eastwood would say.
So Dave, while we have no questions from the field, I have questions.
Yes.
So, you held up the squad leader box, and even if you took away the squad leader name there, if you hold that in front of any war gamer, they're going to know what game that is. Like
Oh,
Cross
definitely.
of Iron. Yeah, Cross of Iron with the guy with the eye patch, which we were talking about.
Yes.
So the games came out, I believe, 77. I played them in 77. It's 2020, last time I checked. Why are these games still being played in such large numbers? What is it about this game that made it an instant classic where if you go to MMP's website, it shows you like all 70 products down all these trees? I mean, this is a massive game, but why is it such an enduring game?
There's a couple of answers to that. The first one is the old squad leader and its expansions when they came out, which remain popular to this day. Maybe not as popular as ASL, but certainly there. So why, when it first came out, when Squad Leader first came out, it was revolutionary. It had individual weapons. I'm in the Army, and I'm a machine gunner, or I have been a machine gunner. And the way Squad Leader uses machine guns in the game, in my opinion, accurately reflect their employment capabilities. So that's the old game. It was revolutionary when it came out, and it really brought people down to that level of combat. Individuals moving around, and you got the heroes, the leaders, all that kind of stuff. Advanced Squad Leader, why is it so popular today? One, I think the beauty of the system itself is so deep and so rich that you can go as deep as you want to in complexity of that game. For example, you can do an assault water crossing at night in the winter with the effects of fog if you want, and maybe there's a paradrop on the other side. You can play a more simplistic game of just an infantry battle, say, for example, in Poland in 1939. You can have cavalry, you can have parachute drops, you have glider assaults. And I think the part of it is that these aren't just generic battles. Every scenario, I mean, there are some exceptions, but I'll say almost every scenario is based on a factual battle. So you typically look at a scenario card as they have it from the boxes. They give a date, they give a time, it'll give the size of the forces that were on there. It'll lay out the the order of battle. It'll talk about it. It'll have a little scene setter of what's happening, and at the end they'll have what happened, what the historical result was. And what you're trying to do as a gamer is at that low level is you're trying to do better than one side or the other. So yes, you're probably looking at a game where you're going to lose as such. So what you're trying to do is not lose as badly as the historical result. So I think personally that's it. I mean, I got some people that exclusively play the Pacific Theater. They love playing the Japanese versus the Chinese. Another aspect I'm going to say is that some people who like the game are historians. I think we all are to some extent, but the U.S. Army War College about a year or so ago, I think they put out some videos on the Battle of Stalingrad, and they talked about it in terms of current U.S. Army doctrine of fighting in cities. And now the graphics are, maybe circa 1994, but I pull out the Red Barricades map, and I can see what's happening. The way they describe it, I can visualize it in ASL terms. So I think it gets things right. It tickles that itch for you to get down at the low level. And you can, if you want to fight only desert battles, fight only desert battles. Jungle battles, maybe city battles, Western Front, Eastern Front, anytime. So it has something for everybody, I guess.
I asked you this question when we did the podcast together at Human Wave, so you should be prepared for this. I asked you how many scenarios are in the game overall between how many MMP makes and third-party vendors, and you said definitely over 1,000. Is it still? Is it grown more?
I underestimated how many there were. Official scenarios only are probably about 700 or 800 scenarios. That's from Avalon Hill and Multiman Publications, not including maybe some of the stuff online. But when you include third-party products, these are very reputable and very well-made scenarios by a number of companies from around the world. There's Bounty Fire Productions in the States, and there's Lone Canuck up here in Canada. There's Tactiques, they're defunct, but they were in France. But now there's Le Frontier, who's out of France and who's makes stuff. They're in Great Britain, there's Germany, they're around the world. I would say probably 7,000 or 8,000 scenarios right now, more than you can play in a lifetime. Some are very small, some are very unique. There's I don't have it with me, but there's a guy who takes a mouse pad about this big. I should probably show it the right way. That's from Caslow. Ah, there you go. It was 24. But there's a mouse pad. It's like a little map on a mouse pad, and he has a number of scenarios for that. So there's, yeah, I'll say 7,000, give or take.
That's quite a bit of scenarios. Before I start asking questions about Vassal, the other day I was trying to find a room. It was on the 4th floor. It was room 67. So it was a 467. If you were to actually see that number, what would the first thing you would think of?
Oh, first, that's the German first line infantry unit, 467. That's what that is.
All right. So you really just answered the question from before. This game is just as much as a cult as it is anything else.
Oh, definitely so. There are many war gamers who will casually play ASL, but ASL players, they will exclusively play ASL. I'm a bit of a collector, so I have games from like the Operational Combat series and some old games I played and stuff. But I mean, 99.9% of my gaming is ASL. Yeah.
So let's go to some questions here, and
Okay.
I'm going to help you answer some of these. Greg, where can you find the new starter sets? I was able to find 2 through 4, and haven't been able to find 1. I believe somebody answered that and said, hey, it was re-released. But let me tell you, I would not have gotten I think the PTO ASL starter kit 4 is already sold out, correct?
Probably.
And if it wasn't for you grabbing a copy for me, I would not have that, or I would have to pay exorbitant amount of money online. It is, you got to hit the MMP webpage, or in Consim world, they tell you when stuff goes up P500.
Mm-hmm.
I think the P500s, Beyond Valor was a little different, but the P500s tend to go pretty fast for squad leaders. So you got to grab them when you can. For starter kit, I have everything, all 4. I have the re-released, the addendum 2, but I don't have number 1.
Okay.
The edition, because they have those 2 extra editions. I don't have 1. I tried finding it. Somebody was willing to sell it for $180. I wasn't willing to pay for it, and I have Decision at Elst. So I know when that comes out, and I believe they just had another P500 go up. So you just got to stay real active with it, because unlike other games, people buy it and don't like it, then they'll sell it. But the folks that have been playing it for years, they own multiple copies. They're not going to give them up.
Oh, that's right. And Multiband Publications is the vendor of choice. That said, there are a number of other vendors around the country and the world. I can't speak for what they're called overseas, because imagine shipping from the United States to Great Britain, for example. That'd be quite a bit.
Prohibitive.
So yeah, it is. So what they do is there's some vendors there that will buy in bulk, and they'll sort of save that way. So it's a little bit more expensive than it would be over here, but that's to be expected. There's one, for example, ritterkrieg.com down in the States. He sells some stuff. So my recommendation is go to the Facebook group and ask people there, and don't be afraid, because people say, well, I'm new and this is a dumb question. Like, no, there are no dumb questions. Unfortunately, you can't. It's hard to search back for questions and stuff. There are a number of online things. I think the easiest first stop, not the only stop, the first stop, I think, would be the Advanced Squad Leader group on Facebook. You can find somebody to pull. Yeah, I think it is.
It's a really great group. It's so this is not really a question; it's more of a statement that somebody made, and I happen to agree that when you first see the rules, it's daunting. And Dave and I met actually playing Flames of War, and I made fun of him for playing Squad Leader, but he was
right.
he was, and that was a long time ago. He was hosting an event, and I wanted to interview a guy that has come out with a few great games called John Gorskowski. And the only way I was able to get an interview with him if I agreed to play him. And he showed me the game. I believe I didn't even have Starter Kit 1. Mm-hmm. Some of it comes back to you. but I think when you play it with a crusty old vet, it is not a hard game to learn. It will take a lifetime to master, just like any other game. So I have a question here from Greg. I have many of the original ASL games, but lost the rules of the PCS many years ago. Are the old counters any different from the new version functionally? It depends on when he got them.
No, if it's from Beyond Valor or after that, so not squad leader, not cross the other ones here, but the advanced squad leader counters from Beyond Valor to now, the only difference is that the printing processes have improved so much over 25 years that yeah, there's easier to read and stuff like that, and they're more centered and they're more aesthetically pleasing. But if it's from advanced squad leader, yeah, you can use. In fact, this box I had here. Here we go. This is from 1985 or 85, 80, yeah, 85. My friend bought this. My best friend bought this in 1985. And the unique thing about this is that, you know, I can just pull up here. These are counters from 1985. Some have been punched out. They're the exact same. They're the exact same as the ones they have now. And so, yes, you can use the old ones. Not from squad leader itself, not from Crescendo of Doom, etc. Various things on the counters have changed. So, yeah. As for getting the rules are available online. The ASL rules #2, you can buy them on, or sorry, second edition, are available for purchase right now. I think on MMP. I think they had a P500 and they got them back up. So,
and that's the smaller book. You need to know I'm a starter kit guy. I have that just in case I'm ever called upon to play the big game. All right, so we got a couple more questions.
Okay.
Do you favor Red Factories, Red October, historical ASL, Congested City over more open Hatton in Flames, or Bridge Too Far, and why?
Really good question. So Red Factories, Red October, self-promotion here. They finally put a counter with my name on it in the new Red Factory. So of course I love it. But actually, in all seriousness, my favorite historical module is Valor of the Guards. It's set in Stalingrad. It was released in 2009 maybe or something. Has an historical map, etc. It does not link up to the Red Factories, Red Barricades one. So the Stalingrad stuff. But why that one over the others is some of the special units they have, where Red Factories and Red October is later into later in the battle, so October and into November. Valor of the Guards is early, so we're talking September 14th or 13th when they first got into the city, and you're fighting some NKVD guys. So they're a different unit and stuff, and there's just something about the Eastern Front that historically, from the historical purpose, gets back. That said, I really do like playing Hatton and Flames. That's a beautiful map. It's white because of the ground snow. Nice big counters, really beautiful artwork on there as well. But if I had to take one over the other, I would be playing Valor of the Guards, and there's some really good scenarios in there.
So let me flip a little bit here, and let's go to Vassal. So
Okay.
I've been to 2 tournaments, both to record podcasts and interview players, and I noticed that I was one of the younger guys there. And just from running this event, I have people that are still sending me PMs of, hey, I registered for the event and I got this ticket. What do I do next? So some folks are a little challenged as far as
I get it.
as technology. So looking at the average age of the player and the fact that Vassal, you kind of have to know a little bit you have to be able to use a computer. Why has that been so popular with such a graybeard fan base?
A gray beard. Oh yeah, me.
Yeah, me too.
Now, there's almost two questions to that. I think the Vassal appeals by nature to I'll say the younger crowd. It's also been around for about 20 years. I'll say 20 years. So us say a guy who's 60 now was 40, playing a computer since he was 35. So maybe not so au fait with it. Younger fellows like me, or even down to the 40s, were 20 when it came out, and maybe they got into it that way. That said, I know many players who are younger than the game, born after 1985, and they're fantastic. And what I like about them is they bring they don't have any of the old habits, I'll say, and they bring a fresh perspective to the game. And I played this. I'll call him a kid. He was like 21. He knew the rules. He knew how to play, and he was pulling some stuff off. It was really refreshing for me. I ended up winning the game, but it was like, man, you pulled some stuff there I never would have thought of. It wasn't like the same old, same old. So it can be hard for some people to to make that leap to go into Vassal. How does it work, etc. The good news is it's very easy to use, and also and every cloud has a silver lining with this whole pandemic, is that some players, some ASL graybeards older than me, refused to get into Vassal. I want to play face to face. Sure, well, you can't do that now, so they were forced into it, and they're saying, wow, it's actually pretty easy to use. As long as you have a mouse and you got yourself a computer screen and stuff, and you have the rules, yeah, then you can get into it. So,
Well, can
yeah.
I put you on the spot and give you a test?
Sure.
Yeah, we'll see. Dave knows me. He doesn't know where this is going to go. I
have no idea.
But you're in front of your PC that you play Vassal on.
Mm-hmm.
Could you be able to share your screen, show how so easy it is to set up a game from your side?
Sure, I'll hide all my stuff here.
And if you can't, but while you're doing that, I'm going to answer some of these questions. And if I'm wrong, please shout at me.
Okay.
All right. So Stu, how do I get more involved with others as a new and casual player? I don't know where you live, Stu, but if you put it in the chat, I could probably answer the question better. The first thing is, as Dave said, go to some of these ASL groups online. When you go online, you have two types of people that post on social media. Guys that hate every game that ever came out because they could design a better one, but they never will. Or guys that really want to grow their community. And I noticed here with the DC conscripts, they're a very large group, but if there was ever a question, and I'm on their board all the time, it is players helping other players get into the game. And even if you just show up to an event and say, I really never played this before, and you communicate with the TO. This goes for any game out there that has a friendly community. People will help you. I noticed that with ASL, just like sitting down with John, he just didn't club a baby seal. He really taught me the game. And as I moved, he's like, yeah, you really shouldn't do that. So there are guys that are out there. So Stu, wherever you live, throw it in there, and you can get in touch with us after this event. Dave and I both write for No Dice No Glory, so just go hit the website and ask us. And I guarantee Dave knows people that are in your area. And here's Dave's very messy. You know what I noticed? We play some of the same games.
I got some close combat there.
Yeah.
I got some generic stuff that I haven't taken off here yet. I got a whole folder of memes you can see there. I'm not opening that. Okay, so up here, right here on the top next to the Panzer Corps, I have this V with Vassal. Later we can talk about how to download it and stuff. You basically download and install like any game. So I've clicked that and I've opened this up right here. I want to point out with my hand. I have a number of games here, and down here, right here, you can see it says Vassal. Don't worry about what version and stuff like that. I'll just double click it there. Of course, it takes a second or two to open up because I'm online and it's live and stuff. There we go. So here I have a number of options, right? So it opens up, there's a little screen here just showing some generic game. I can start a new game offline. I'm not going to do that. I can look for a game online. Not going to do that. I can load a saved game. And it's got load save game, and down at the bottom, I just hit next. I can select a game, and it'll take me to here, and I'm playing a fella. Actually, here's a new player from France. His name's Loic. And I'm going to open this up. And this is what I received in an email. So very quickly across the top, people have various ways of laying out their game. It's got a number of pieces and things up here. But the main one I'm going to refer to right here is this sort of like the step forward button. You can see it says step forward through log file page down. Down below, I have a map, and I can interact with this map. For example, I can check lines of sight. Oh, look at that. I can see that, oh, it's blocked from here to here because of reasons. Click it, and then the guys come back on. I'm playing these guys are the Russians, and I'm not doing quite that well, actually, you can see. I can click through and I can see that certain things have happened. I can expand, I can contract what's happening. And I'm going to take one of these guys over here. I'll just put them on the map. Excuse me, on the map. And let's say that we're playing online and we're live. Let's say I can take this guy and I can move him. And say we're talking. I go, okay, I'm going to move this guy here. I brought your attention to him. He's going to bypass this for 1. The guy says, yeah, okay, I'm not shooting. I'm going to go there for 2, and then you can say whatever you're doing. And as I get shot at, I can do things like I can break. Just like this is like flipping the counter over. And it adds the information counters on there right away. So let's. I'm just going to close this game because I'm not going to save it. Because one thing I do want to show is how easy it is to start a game. So I'll go File, New Game, and this window pops up. And I select a board. I don't know. I'm going to take. I'm not going to take that one. I'll just take. I don't know. 73. 73. There it is. And I can add terrain, special scenario rules, as they say. For example, let's say it's in December. Bam, it's in December, and I can apply it. Okay, so you saw certain things disappeared, like wheat fields are no longer in season. I can add things like weather. There's ground snow. I will apply it. Oh, everything's just turned white. I'll say I'm done, hit finish, and there's my beautiful board with all the out-of-season orchards, the road, and the ground is white. That's the beauty of the game. Playing Vassal. Another thing is up here in the window, you can see my top left, I've got, looks like a moon. I press it, everything's at night. And you say, well, it just turned gray. So yes, but watch what happens when I put a prep fire marker down. It lights up because I shot, and that means people can see me. And of course, now I'm panicking because I can't find the, if I can just enter the counter name, I'm going to look for a star shell. Search, I have to hit search other night basic. There we go. So I go to the little tray, I go to other, I go to night, and it's on the basic. Here we go. Here comes a star shell somebody threw up. And look, now I can see the opened up area. That's actually one of the advantages of playing Vassal, is that you can interact with the pieces much better, and you can throw terrain SSRs down without having to visualize. You can, for example, all hills or swamps or all this or that, whatever. And if there's maybe this one's what do you call that? It's not an image intensifier, not infrared. It's illumination round. That's what it is, like from artillery, and it lights up the sky. So you can see that anybody in this area is now being illuminated. And if you move it around, and you can see how that stuff goes. So that's just one of the advantages of it, I find.
So let me ask a crazy question.
Yes.
Not a cheap hobby, but how expensive are these Vassal modules, David?
These are $0.00.
Say that again, sir.
$0.00. Buy one, get one free.
So they're free?
Free, completely free.
But
free,
I do
free
need,
down.
What do I need to play these guys? I need to know the rules and own a copy of the rules.
Yes, so for example, let's say I wanted to play, and I just have it here, is ASL Scenario 3, the Chernikov Bridgehead. I know what boards I have, and I know what the pieces. Because I bought Beyond Valor, and I have this. Excuse me. And
You
it
need
costs,
the missions too, correct?
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
You're also going to need the rule book, which you can get the pocket rule book that they have here. It's much smaller, and that's a pretty big pocket, so it's more of a compact rule book. The thing about this is that it doesn't have a lot of the charts and files and folders that you need. And of course, the capitalism at work, if there's a need, they'll make it, and they made it. This is from a third-party product, La Frontiere out of France. This is the second edition of the pocket charts. It has all the different charts and stuff that you need for the game. I just went here. This is the artillery flow chart, so you need a PhD to work artillery. Oh, look, I got stuff out of the desert, and it goes on from there. That said, you can have the full rule book, and it has all the charts and things in there as well, so you don't have to do it. So you're going to need the rule book. You're going to need the scenario card. When you get the scenario card, sometimes you can buy scenario packs where you just have the scenarios themselves. But if you don't have the game itself, in fact, I don't know of anybody who, when they play Vassal, they don't have a hard copy. of the game itself, because pandemic or not, this is the preferred way to play because you're with somebody and there's so much more than just pushing the counters around. That said, Vassal is a very, very, very close second. Very close. And of course, I would say it has some advantages. And actually, what I'll say is there's a way you can save the maps here, however you have them as terrain modifications based on the scenario, which sometimes people just don't like them, or you have these overlays that you put down that will add terrain to it. They'll take these and they'll print them off and they'll bring them to the scenario to the tournament, and they'll use them. And sometimes they print them off slightly larger because some people prefer a slightly larger hex. I mentioned Hatton and Flames earlier. Those hex sizes are beautiful. You can put counters side by side in them, lots of room. And yes, I prefer playing the Stalingrad stuff, but Hatton and Flames is a really good scenario as well. I can't say that enough. All right, anything else on the game that you want to see? Actually, you know what I'm going to do? See this little button up here? That says how you connect online. It's going to open up. Move this out of the way. Over here is.
I was just about to ask that. So I've signed up for my tournament. I have all my media. I've downloaded Vassal. What happens next?
First of all, when you log in to online, you should make sure that your game is over. You don't have a game open. That's just etiquette. Because you're going to open up, you got Vassal. You're going to come on to here. You're going to probably not have this one open. You're just going to have it as I see it right here. Connect up here, the one right next to the V. You've got the legacy server. Don't worry, I have no idea what that means. Go to connect, and let's have a look. All right, see this right here? That's me. I just came on. Fran Oliva and Commissar Piotr are online, and this is how many games are going on right now. Bailey's Bridge. So you can go into a room, don't touch anything. I can't say that enough. But these people are playing. It looks like a night game, and I'm not gonna interfere with their game or anything, but just sort of show how you can see. Looks like these are Japanese, and they're up against Marine Raiders, maybe. I'm not gonna interfere with the screen itself. A104. Who's this? This is another one. Oh, I've got my night game on. That's why. Okay, it's not a night snare. This one here looks like they're going for a bridge, and there's some French and some Germans. They're playing their game, and you can go in. And actually, how topical is this? Somebody's playing a game called Gavan Take, which is a very, very, very good introductory scenario. There's no snipers. It's just infantry with support weapons, Americans and Germans, and this was designed as a scenario for a tournament back in '87 or something. It's been played since then. You can go online. You can check the record of results. And this one is very, very even. A lot of people like to play this to introduce somebody to the game. And I think, Mitch, you came over with, who did you come over with? You came to my place where I lived in Vienna, over by Wolf Trap.
Sean Sarah.
Yes, it was Sean. We came over, and we actually ran through this a little bit, as opposed to going into a starter kit. I thought this would make a nice little game. Got through a few turns, and away it went. So he's obviously waiting for his opponent. I'll go back to the main room there.
So it's that easy.
It's that easy. And here's the thing. Some people may have played Vassal before, where you had to go online and you had to download all the maps and you had to download all the stuff. You can see here it says this game was saved with all these different mods and stuff. I'm not going to get into that because you really don't need those. And in fact, you don't even need to download the maps. If you get into a game where you don't have that map on your computer, the program knows this and says, hey, you don't have this. So it'll go to the server, download it, put it into the proper folder for you, and voila, there it is. And it takes like a second because the files are several dozen kilobytes maybe for the files themselves. Anything else you want to see on the screen before I go back to the stop share? I'm not going to open up my memes folder.
Randy wants to know what the extensions are.
Oh, okay. So here, I'll go here. All right. So this is probably the best way to see them. This is the Vassal with 2 SAEL at the end. Open up this little key here, and you can see a number of extensions. These are available online at a site called vassal.info. Go to the downloads, and they're all there. You download it to wherever you download them to, whatever you want to call it. And you can go to Vassal, you can right click, add extension, and then it'll take you to where you downloaded it, and you just hit yes, and then okay, and then it goes. And that's it. Now, what do these do? If you want to make a secret, well, just from the bottom up, the terrain chart. Somebody added a terrain chart, which is like I have here on this, as you can see, as I look through, has all the terrain and stuff. Somebody digitized that and put it on. A secret die roll. So if you want to make a die roll, sometimes you have to make a secret. What it does is it records it. Overlays. I mentioned terrain overlays. There are a number of these. For example, you have buildings or streams or whatever, rail lines and stuff. Certain scenarios will say place them on, and what this does, it simplifies it for you because they're available. Rare vehicles and ordnance. That's usually from some third-party products. What they'd like to do is they have special rare vehicles, as it says there, that they'll bring into it. And finally, this one here, BFP, that is a from Bounding Fire Productions. Again, the third-party products are known, some of them, for bringing in unique special scenario rules to add a little bit of flavor to the scenarios they make. Maybe some off, the standard set of leaders, for example. They have a certain set of ratings, and they'll mix that up a little bit. Or they'll have, I don't know, a special unit that was maybe, for example, they have what they call their anti-tank half squads or whatever that they use at Kursk, the Russians did. And these guys are trained in the use of certain weapons, and they, there's certain rules that apply to them that don't apply to the regular line infantry when engaging tanks, for example. And what these extensions do is they help the player bring that in. As you can see, when I loaded up one of those games, it had a number of extensions on there that I didn't have. So it's a matter of choice. You don't need these extensions, but you can add them. And they're just as simple as that. Just right click, add extension. Or if you're a programmer, you can make a new extension, but I just prefer to just add. That's, yeah. Anything else you want to see?
I am going to throw it out to the crowd because we're 3 minutes from end time. If anybody has any questions, throw it out. Oh, Dave did cover a lot of the ASL tournaments that he's run, including the online one. Just go hit nodicenoglory.com. I'd say Dave's a staff writer, but we have to coerce him into writing stuff. But you can see he loves this game, and your enthusiasm has made me have an ASL starter kit collection, so I appreciate that. Dave, I would say on the behalf of HMGS and our audience, thank you so very much for doing this. We didn't have to twist Dave's arm for this to get him to talk for an hour, but I appreciate it. And for you folks that have been, I've been seeing some of these names over and over again. And these people really, guys, I will pay your therapy bills from hearing my voice too much. But if you have any questions, you know how to reach us. And Dave, thank you very much. And please check out some of our other great speakers. And I will be speaking to you soon, sir.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. And I'm glad. This is just the tip of the iceberg. So guys, reach out if you have to. Be a pleasure.
Okay. I'm out. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Take care. A lot of familiar names there. I saw Stu was online. There he is. It's funny. I was looking for the share screen button.